Good evening, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here once again with our dear Silvia Gibbons, Charles Kempf, and tonight, Vanessa Anceloni. Where they are? I'm not seeing them. Where is Vanessa? Here. Oh, sorry. Yeah. I'm still learning how to. I não consigo pôr Vanessa.
Okay.
Ah, he's here now. Okay. So it is really a good time to talk about something very special tonight. So, from my heart, welcome everyone. And I pass over to Silvia, Charles, and later I will introduce Vanessa again. Silvia.
Yeah. Hello, good evening, everyone. Or good afternoon. It's still light here. It's always nice to be together once again, and especially today, having Vanessa as our guest and speaking in a very important point, very important issue that it's in our minds everywhere. So, welcome, everyone, and we're going to have a good meeting, God willing. E boa tarde a todos, boa noite, bom dia, onde quer que você esteja, um grande abraço, prazer estarmos juntos. Hoje temos a visita da Vanessa e o assunto extremamente importante para os nossos dias. Então, bem-vindo, que Jesus os abençoe a todos.
Charles.
Bonsoir à tous, bonjour, bonsoir, selon où vous êtes dans le monde. Très heureux d'être à nouveau parmi vous ce soir et puis de pouvoir apprendre avec notre chère sœur Vanessa Anceloni sur un sujet aussi important de la schizophrénie comparé à la faculté médiumnique. Voilà. I'm very happy. Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here again with you all this evening or this morning or this afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. And very happy to learn together with our sister Vanessa, who will talk to us about this very exciting subject.
So I think everybody knows Vanessa Anceloni, Dr. Vanessa Anceloni, neuroscientist, a psychologist, and many, many, many other degrees. But the most important, she's a spiritist and talk about schizophrenia and obsession. And it's very important for all of us to understand. Dr. Vanessa Anceloni is the leader in the Spiritist magazine. There's a magazine in English that talk about spiritual, everything about spirituality and spiritism. And also Kardec Radio, the founder. And very nice indeed that we are partners. We work here with our Kardec Radio and many other roles in Spiritist Center, founder of many Spiritist Center. But more than that, she's a mother, she's a wife, she's a friend. And I let Vanessa say more about her, and over to you, Vanessa, querida.
Thank you, Elsa. Thank you, Silvia. Thank you, Charles. It's so great to be here with you. It feels to me as if I am in another dimension, because then we can leave the realms of our daily lives and nourish ourselves as spirits, living on earth temporarily, right? And today we're talking about mental health. And mental health has been the topic during this pandemic. And as we try to overcome this pandemic, the status of mental health in every single age group has been impacted greatly. And we spiritists know that when we talk about mental health, we're talking about the health of the mind, of the spirit. So we need to go back to the foundation. Since we have this common foundation, it's going to be easier for us to build the blocks of understanding regarding schizophrenia and also obsession. So you and I are not the physical body. No. That changes everything. We are, who is speaking? The body? No. I, Vanessa, the spirit. So we are millennial beings. We have lived so many lives. And we are reincarnated in a new body that is developing as we live in that reincarnation. And we carry with us the load of everything we have done, said, felt, and thought. Leon Denis, in the book After Death, explains to us, and many other books of his, he repeats it. Kardec explains it in many of his books, but mostly in the Genesis. You and I know that everything that we experience stays in the memory of the spirit, in our memory. And that memory is stored in the perispirit. Okay? What is the perispirit? It's our spiritual body. We cannot connect matter and spirit without an intermediary. We need an interface. That interface is the spiritual body. Dr. Ian Stevenson and recently Jim Tucker and others from the University of Virginia in Charlottesville, they have been investigating the contents of previous lives, and they talk about, especially not only in the papers but in books for the lay public, like where biology and reincarnation intersect, when they show cases after cases after cases of the imprint in the body in birthmarks, for example, of experiences of previous lives. So somebody was gunshot at the neck level. Next life, the person in the book presented a birthmark in the neck and the spontaneous memories of that experience in a previous life. So you and I, more than anything, it's important to feel. Do you feel yourself as a spirit connected to the body? Because children naturally identify themselves so much with the body that they say, I cut myself, I got injured, etc. Actually, the body did. So it's important to feel the connection with the body, but not so much identifying ourselves in terms of who we are. The body is blessed, sacred, but is this physical grounding through which we experience and we grow and evolve. Because it is, my friends, in a reincarnation that we will seal our milestones of the spirit. Why we're saying this? Because it is here that we are learning how to be better, how to unfold the divine potential. But we refuse it. And then our mental health is impacted, right? We may refuse it. So I'm giving an overall to go back to the spiritual body and remind ourselves that we have everything imprinted in our spiritual body, the perispirit. And depending on the reincarnatory plan, the genetic imprint, we may, and the environment, we may or may not activate certain experiences that come from previous lives that will impact our mental health. So, for example, if science says, oh, you have a predisposition to Alzheimer because in your family, XYZ people had Alzheimer, not necessarily you will, even if genetically there's great predisposition to developing it, you may or may not, according to the choices we make, the environmental choices and the inner psychological choices as well. Science already shows to us that we can take that new step into our lives. But what about critical mental illnesses that will not allow us to live our lives to the fullest? For example, schizophrenia. Divaldo Franco brought to us a beautiful chapter, besides his many books that Joana de Angelis the Spirit brought. There's one named After the Storm, and we have been publishing some of its chapters at the Spiritist magazine because the book was out of print. But you can check on this book. There are many topics, and one of them being mental illness and obsession. And he mentions schizophrenia. In the whole Spiritist literature, especially the most recent one, with the help of several psychiatrists who are Spiritists in Brazil, we get to know that schizophrenia has its roots mainly in the previous lives experiences. Yes. I remember visiting a psychiatric hospital. We were offering the healing, the passes, the laying on of hands to a few patients, and one of the people who were nearby was this girl. She had, we've got to know, she was going through her schizophrenic episodes during that time. And in a conversation that she had in front of us with family members, she was saying she was very enraged. She was very unforgiving, talking about somebody else who was not present. Very vocal in expressing her anger. People who were next to me asked, Vanessa, why is this happening? On the behind the scenes of our mental imbalances, there are the choices we made in previous lives that may be triggered in this life. But why is this predisposition a possibility? Is it a curse? No. On the contrary, actually, it's the healing process. It's as if we are expunging from us the crystallizations of things that didn't get to be filtered by our conscience. And what is it? Let's go to the book Evolution in Two Worlds, chapter 19, part 2. André Luiz is telling us that we get predisposed to certain illnesses at spiritual body level. How? Anytime we make a grave mistake and remember the grave mistake, we will inevitably go through the need to expunge it, because we form a knot, or as André Luiz says, a nodule of vibratory disturbance in the spiritual body that needs to be washed away, expunged. How so? Not necessarily, but majority of cases through a new reincarnation, a new body, and the need to expunge it in that disharmony through the physical body, which we call illnesses, including mental illnesses. So for us on earth, we look at schizophrenia, anxiety, depression, 10,000 things as a problem. Actually, it's already the expunging of the disharmony. Because, friends, what would happen to us if we stayed in the spiritual realm with that guilty mindset? Remember, a grave mistake produces the crystallization, the knot in the perispirit. We need to wash it away. If we stay in the spiritual realm for too long without caring for that disturbance, we will continue to proceed in a lot of wasted time and possibly creating more problems for ourselves according to our choices. So mercifully, we're given a new body, a new reincarnation, to help us harmonize our memory files. So how is your memory file? Is it organized? Are there things that you don't want to think about, that you want to put aside, you don't want to talk about? If that's the case, run. Open those prohibited files in your heart, in your mind. Find trusted help, professional if needed, or in spiritist centers, and archive those emotions well. And if guilt is at the end of the road, we need to deal with it as soon as possible. We can re-edit our emotional takes. Even psychology shows it to us. It's emotional editing. You go there, and just like a play therapist would work with a child who had a bad dream, she would say, take the toys, show me the scene of your bad dream. Now let's change this dream. And then the dream that had a dog who was eaten by the fire in the house no longer died because the child re-edited emotionally, found a fire extinguisher, and placed it in the scene showing that nobody got hurt. We can deal with this in our minds. There is a book that the British Union of Spiritist Societies has published by Emmanuel through the medium Chico Xavier that is a must for us. Thought and Life. There is a chapter named Guilt that teaches us how to treat guilt. In this first part of our conversation, we would like to talk about the root causes. The root causes are in us, and that's very uplifting and empowering. And these roots of our mental issues can be healed with new awareness. And one of the most empowering, if not the most empowering therapeutic processes is the gospel. I know, I want to tease people. I'm doing this on purpose because we tend to look at psychology, neuroscience, and medicine and say, what do I do? For example, if today you are in the United States and you're feeling anxious or you don't know if you're having a heart attack or not, and you go to an ER, you're going to do EKG, 10,000 things, and at the end they're going to say, you have nothing, just go home and relax. Thank you, medicine, because that didn't help me anyway. So it's fruitless for you and me to seek for the deep answers in traditional medicine, because as much as we respect it, it's lacking what it needs to understand the mind. Psychiatry is the only field in medicine, only specialty, that does not regard the physical body to diagnose the person. And there are neuroscientists who are psychiatrists who are taking the lead to change it, to show that you can do some brain imaging to complete the diagnosis and really understand what is happening to the person. Because at this point, when we talk about mental health, we have some band-aids, but no actual solutions unless we open wide our understanding of the mind, the body, the extra corporeal essential element, the spirit, and then we open the possibility for the therapy, for treatment, for healing. We can talk more about this, but I want to stop here to have our friends here, Elsa, Silvia, and Charles, also join in, right?
Yes, there's a comment here that I can put first because I think it's related to what you said right a few minutes ago. From Camila Brilla. I had a feeling I will have cancer specifically for many years and was always afraid of cancer. Now that it happened, I feel like it is a gift,
Oh, wow.
she said. Only now I see that way. I don't think I would without spiritism. So it's possible, Vanessa, when doing imaging scanners, you distinguish between schizophrenia and hallucinations and obsession.
Well, to tell the truth, the these scientists that are trying to open a new way of diagnosing mental illnesses with the help of the scan of the physical body, like the brain, they are still building data. I'll give an example. If you look at somebody who is an alcoholic and somebody who is not, if you take pictures of the brain, there are certain characteristics that show they lose a lot of mass in the brain, shrinks the brain. Alcohol shrinks the brain. So you can tell. But we need a lot of science to show to us the patterns that remain so we can distinguish one mental disorder from another and see certain characteristics. There are certain studies pointing to directions, but it's not final yet. If you look at what we have as manual, like a manual for it, it's not correlated. For example, let's say, oh, if people had schizophrenia, we would detect it easily if this part of the brain wouldn't be uh, would be in a different size or shape or function physiologically, right? We cannot tell it yet. So we still need a lot of work to see if there is a pattern that we can detect. But certainly, one thing we can say, and scientists already predict, there are changes that you can see. We just don't know yet. It's not as objective as we want it to be because we need more studies to make the case. Right? Okay.
I don't know if Charles or Silvia wants to ask a question, but I was, before our meeting, I was reading, I don't know if it's possible to see or not, schizophrenia or spirit possession, Mike Williamson. It's a new book. I didn't read it, but it's talking a lot about spiritual life. Really, it's not a spiritist person. It's a researcher that is nowadays, as you said, the things are changing slowly and put more credit, not only in brain damage, but obsession that cure more rapidly sometimes than schizophrenia, no? That could be a life, changing.
Yeah. I want to share something. If people go to that chapter also of Joanna De Angelis' book, why I'm reinforcing this? Because she describes something that other spirits will say, like Emmanuel will tell us in the book Laws of Love. Kardec Radio translated. It's under revision soon. We'll be able to send it to the publisher. But when I share something with you, the causes, the spiritual causes for illnesses. In terms of mental illness, one of the things that we know is this: holding grudges and especially hatred, violent passions. These will create what Emmanuel says in this book, Laws of Love, lesions in our spiritual body. As Andrea Luiz said in the book Evolution into Worlds, that later will be imprinted in a new body or even in this body, because we can create schizophrenia in this life. You can do it by using drugs, because we know certain drugs, illegal drugs that you do, may trigger it. And also states of mind. We all know of people who seem to be happy, but they hold grudges, they are very resented, and they're very angry at people, and they cherish this hatred. And then later in life, in their aging years, they will experience forms of mental imbalances that people think, oh, because they are aging. No, 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 no. We know people who are aging quite well. But there are people, it's not because they're aging. As the perispiritual cells are disconnected in our aging process from the physical body, it's as if there is a download of that charge. God mercifully allows us to be drained in our physical body. I'll give an example that people can read in a book that is Emmanuel's novel, 2,000 years ago, the case of Fulvia. Fulvia is always slandering. She's always hating people. She's a hater, basically. If you are not in her team, you are out. And she's creating plots. She's drinking alcohol. And she has a lifestyle that is not very toxic mentally. At the end of her life, of course, she has cancer in her case. But that could be a solution, right? We understand. But in her case, she developed this mental insanity. We cannot give a specific name, but she starts hallucinating, seeing things, etc. She created it herself. And now, as we're bridging schizophrenia and obsession, there you go. As she's seeing things, those who crossed over before her, who were partners in crime, and now are coming back to her, she's seeing them. Is she really seeing them? Is she being somewhat obsessed? Yes. Medicine would say she's insane. We would say she created her insanity. She attracted the partnership. And now here she is.
Thank you, Vanessa. I think Silvia can have a question. Charles, no? Because it's something very important.
Charles, you can go first if you want, Charles.
Okay, let's go. So, very interesting indeed, Vanessa. Thanks for this explanation. Now, when I look what's happening here in France specifically, the medicine is following, in his vast majority, a materialist paradigm. Okay, so this means that when we talk the word obsession, for instance, to a doctor or psychiatrist, he will absolutely not understand the obsession as being the influence of a spirit independent of the person, which is then making this how to say, strengthening this influence on this person. So for him, it will be very difficult, or if not almost impossible, to make the difference between schizophrenia and obsession. And the result is what we see quite often. Some persons, they have physically nothing who could explain a trouble or a schizophrenia, and sometimes have a simple obsession or this of coming from third spirit. So and the person is receiving drugs in order to like the treatment given to schizophrenia. So what is, in your view, Vanessa, the best way to really introduce this spiritual paradigm into the medicine in general, in particular for this case where typically, I mean, if it's obsession and schizophrenia, the treatment is absolutely not the same. So how could we, for instance, I mean, could the spiritualist doctors try to get, for instance, outstanding results of treating obsession compared with the the treatment, which is by drugs and which generally does not solve the problem of obsession. What's your opinion?
You know, Charles, when I was 22, I was still in Brazil, and I was at a doctor's office, and she said, and I, as a spiritist, many people are spiritists in Brazil. I didn't know if she was a spiritist or not. She was a homeopathic doctor, but a doctor, physician. And I said, and I was telling what was happening at the time with me. And at some point, I mentioned that I see spirits, but that wasn't bothering me. That wasn't the problem at all. Just mentioned. Oh, then I heard my mentor saying that. Why did I say that? She looked at me, Vanessa, you have schizophrenia. Well, she's not a. And I said, Doctor, I come from a spiritist family, and I'm a psychologist, so I know that I'm not, because I understand reality, and I think you're wrong. Well, of course, I wanted her to help me with something else. And why did I say that? She couldn't help me. But of course, we have spiritist centers in Brazil, everywhere. Like Camille is saying, the famous Tupiara in Rio de Janeiro that has helped me when I was a kid in Brazil, when I lived in Rio. And they do wonderful works. I agree with you, Camille. I'm happy that they helped you too. And I would say I treated myself at the spiritist centers when I needed. Of course, visions were never a problem to me. I was always functional, so it was easier. But what about people who cannot distinguish, right? How do you deal? So I remember a case that happened in the United States, connected to the spiritist out of Baltimore, of a boy. He was 15. And the day the mother said, no more playing with your Xbox, I guess, and this game of wars, he simply flipped. He went violent. She called me and I said, well, call the police. The police took him to the psychiatric hospital. And then they diagnosed schizophrenia in his case. What do you do? How do you treat it? Because here they'll give you medication and yet it doesn't heal anything. It's Band-Aid. Blessed Band-Aid, huh? We like Band-Aid. They have a purpose. Medication has a purpose, but that doesn't heal. So we need to go deeper. And what would I do? Go to non-traditional medicine, complementary medicine, which is medicine. There are 10,000 things we can do, from homeopathic remedies to craniosacral therapy, to balance the nervous system, to acupuncture, which is true surgery in the perispirit, to many other types of therapy, including the support of the Spiritist Center for any mental illness, any mental issue, from anxiety to panic attacks to schizophrenia, anything, phobias, go to the center. But then what's the first step, I would say? Understanding you. We need, for example, the girl that I saw in the hospital. What does she need? Sit down here. You need to forgive that man. Because that anger that is in you is fed by pride. How can you think of killing someone, of being enraged at that level? We need to understand. So, the therapy of the spirit is where we're going to target the healing. No medication will substitute this. If you go to the book Memoirs of a Suicide, in the institute, in the spiritual realm where suicides are taken, they have what they call moral therapy. Forgive us, huh? For those who are, I know not here, but who are elsewhere materialistic, for them, all we have is medication. But if you don't open your mind, you will suffer until you surrender to understand that. And I'm sorry, Charles, but when people say, all I believe is matter, then stay there suffering until it's unbearable, and then you come and we'll talk. And then we'll talk about the moral therapy. Where in you you're holding grudges, where in you are not forgiving, where in you are creating what André Luiz says in the book, in the domains of mediumship or in the realm of mediumship. He says, mental battles. He says, thousands, millions of homes around the world are under a battlefield of the minds. It's a wife that goes to sleep angry with the husband, a daughter or a son who goes to sleep feeling defeated by the parents, and the duels. We open the gospel according to Spiritism when it talks about being merciful, and it talks about duels. Oh, we don't do this anymore. No, we keep doing it. Right? We still battle with people mind to mind. I remember somebody who said to me many years ago, 20 years ago, when I was 18, the person said she was upset with me for something. And she said, I spent a year waking up every day thinking of you, Vanessa, and being angry at you. I said, thank you. But why do you do this with yourself? Why don't you call, talk to me? Why don't we resolve? We keep being angry at people. That cannot give us health today or tomorrow. So we need to go to the core, the mind, to heal. Charles, I don't know if this is satisfactory, but I would say it's impossible to heal of mental illnesses with a purely materialistic approach.
I fully agree with you, Vanessa. Difficulty is to make it, to turn it into a paradigm.
Yes.
But we will get there, I'm sure.
We're getting there, little by little.
Wonderful. Comments, yeah,
right?
but I know,
You want to mention Alexander Moreira, a psychiatrist who is taking the lead on this in the world. He's doing fantastic work. He was born to do that, and he's working wonders in the Association of Psychiatry around the world and trying to shift the paradigm, right? One paper at a
yes. Spiritism for him is a commitment, not a holiday or a hobby.
no, not at
So
all.
dedicated. Yes, it's true. But
Well, spiritism is not a hobby for anyone, I don't think. I think the question that Charles was saying, and it happens. I think a lot of things. It always reminds me of something that Aldous Huxley said. He wrote a paper saying that 10% of the sufferings that we have in life part of the human condition, and 90% is to do with our own creation. And I think that's so true in so many ways, because, the point you were making, anger, hatred, and little bits, and nothing, and people get so irritated. And actually, someone was saying to me, nowadays, everybody's so anxious, so nervous, so upset. There is no patience with anyone. Everyone wants everybody else to follow what they think, because their truth is what they, and they cannot respect somebody else's point of view. I think this is part of the process that we are going through now, of the change from this world to the next, a world of, atonement that we're living. And I think this is part of all of it, and all the spirits that are coming to earth now to, as you said, to sponge, to clear quite a lot of the things. And I think for us who have some knowledge of spiritism, I think it creates quite a lot of responsibility in ourselves. How do we do things, how we behave, because we cannot teach people with words, but we can with the way we behave, the way we act. And I think it doesn't mean that we don't have problems, that sometimes we're angry with people if they upset us, if they betray us. But it's a lot to do with how we take it, like the example you gave, Vanessa. The girl said he's angry. Oh, thank you very much. How can we solve this then? Because anger and forgiveness is interesting. Forgiveness is not for other people, it's for ourselves. When we forgive others, we cleanse ourselves. And I think that's the way things have to change. Because André Louis says as well, until the medicine knows about the spiritual body and the knowledge of the spiritual world, until then, we will not find solutions for everything. I think there are some kind of illnesses that conventional medicine and tablets and medicine helps alleviate some of the symptoms so that people can work better. But really going to deep healing, you need to go within yourself and start, I think, first of all, forgiving ourselves, because sometimes we're so hard on ourselves. We punish ourselves for nothing at all, and then we ended up not doing anything because we get so guilty. The weight of it is so heavy on us that we ended up not doing anything. And then, of course, if we can forgive ourselves, we can forgive others. And it's so basic, the teachings of Jesus, and it's very, very interesting. Do I have very, very brief time to just say a story for Irmão X, Apollos, Contos e Apólogos. And there's one of the stories that Jesus was dying on a cross and he was on his own. He was looking around and he didn't see anybody of his. And then he started thinking about Peter and Bartholomew and Philip. And he said, where are they? Why? I miss talking to Matthew and he's not here. And at that time, when Jesus was feeling like that, that creature who came to tempt him came and said, oh, why don't you punish them? Because they betrayed you, they left you, they're on your own, suffering by yourself, and you should do something against them. And then at that moment, Jesus said, Father, forgive them, they do not know what they do. And this person, this creature who was tempting him, disappeared, and Jesus was freed, was when he could left his spirit go. And I thought that's such a beautiful story for us. Of course, Jesus didn't have that, but it's a story that brings to us what we need to do. We can say, but the person who is hurting us, who's doing whatever, they really don't know they're doing it. So why should we carry something that they themselves don't know they have? And I think that's an attitude that will help in mental health. And I think also that if we can't heal everybody. Medicine, I think psychiatry, psychology can help in a lot. And people should go and look for professional help, because it is really good to be able to talk to people and clear themselves with a lot. I think this is a very good part of medicine that really helps. But also trying to help ourselves have a spiritual dimension to our lives, and forgiveness for others, because we need first forgive ourselves and then others. And as you said in the beginning, the therapy of the gospel, if we just pay attention, It makes a big difference for our lives and the lives of others, especially at this time that trust and loyalty and everything seems to be in a balance. We see this in government, we see, everywhere. So if we are able to testify, to be the witness that Spiritism helps and sustains you and gives you hope, no matter how bad things are, I think it's doing a lot for our spirit, because we do have some, of course, it's not a mission to compare, but each and every one of us have a mission to fulfill. Even if it's sweeping the streets, but it's a mission to fulfill that helps others. That's how I feel anyway. Sorry to go on so long.
It's great, Silvia. It's nice to have a comment on this. Vanessa, what I'm seeing these days, two cases. People has been seen by psychiatrists, but they are really with the persecution maniac moments, assim, perseguição. Everything is someone persecuting the person. I mean, even the lamp. Oh no, they have a camera in this lamp is persecuting me. I don't want to speak here. Go there with me. So it's a spirit center. Come to us. And of course, we are talking and say them, are you going, did you see your doctor, psychiatrist? Yes, I have my medicine, I have this and that. So, but when the person comes and receive healings and start studying and knowing more his own problem, of course, they will understand. Sometimes never diminishes the problem, but at least they know that they are dealing with spirits and, of course, with themselves. The schizophrenia, this persecution maniac moment, and also hearing voices. That hearing voice is so common nowadays, no? There's a lot of groups in everywhere, hearing voices people. Here we have in Buddhist Center in London. There is a place in London. And I went there, talked to the people there. What they are saying, they have normal people as me, as you, but they have this faculty, hearing voices. Right? That is, I don't know if it's diagnosed with schizophrenia or it's something that can live forever in the same situation. Even they learn not do much attention to the voices, because their voices sometimes say, kill yourself, you're not good for this world, blah, blah, blah. And people,
Yeah.
mental health.
It's interesting, Elsa, you're saying that because you're talking about what they say persecutory delusions,
Uh,
which may happen in schizophrenia, but not only, sometimes in episodes of bipolar disorder. But first of all, nowadays, with the social media, the numbers have escalated because many people are really creating delusions. Unfortunately, I see an escalation of it that is induced by society, because there are people who, maybe due to political things, they create stories and they have teams to create videos of stories like they did during the pandemic against vaccination. And many people believing, I know spiritists believe, like, oh, the vaccines don't work. People are doing this to us. And I said, friends, let's use our reasoning. If the world were united for that plot, we would be much better off. Don't think that the nations are united creating vaccines to destroy humanity, because that's insane. And I see many people who believe that. They say, I don't have Facebook because people are watching me. I don't have social media because they're watching me. But you have a phone. And they are watching you in any ways, because there is no way you can't be tracked anymore unless you are a hermit somewhere in a mountain without a phone. But if you have a phone and you have a computer, yes, we're seeing this in the US and around the world. people who are creating these delusions for others. Okay, so we see an escalation of it in the current times. And then we ask, what do? We need to use our reasoning. And Kardec was masterful in the use of reasoning. Kardec was master. He was a master in the use of reasoning. And he taught us how to do so. We need to question ourselves. For example, when the physician whom I respected came to me when I was 22, like, oh, Vanessa, I think you have schizophrenia. She didn't diagnose me for real. She was just exchanging ideas. And I said, I respect your point of view because you're materialistic, but that's not what it is. Today, she sees my grandmother and she says, she's my grandmother's homeopathic doctor, and she says, oh, I'm glad Vanessa never really believed me. And I didn't. I believed everything else she could say. But that didn't make her a bad doctor. Made her a limited doctor. So I looked at her and I said, if you want to treat me in any way, you can. But that part, I know I'm doing well. So we need to use our reasoning. And when we can't, we always have somebody else to help us because we are living in society. So I would say to treat mental illness, we need society, friends. One thing I know, you don't heal from mental illnesses or you don't help anybody, the person alone. You need a whole group of people to help raise that person back to balance. And that's what we need to focus. To have a social strategy, a family strategy. As the Spiritist books say, when we're talking about mental illnesses, the whole family is involved.
Exactly.
We need the family to participate in the healing because it has everything to do with every single relationship in our lives. Rarely we're going to have somebody in our families who goes through any mental illness, any mental disorder, any mental imbalance that we do not get to be involved in some way and form because we have history together. And the healing is the healing of the group, not only that person. The healing is the healing of society. The day we look at it as a social need, we're going to change everything. Because then we're going to restructure our daycares, our schools. And then everything else is just going to unfold much more easily. But right now, instead of doing prevention work, we're trying to come with the remedy. And sometimes it's just a band-aid. As Silvia said, Marco said here, yes, we need both traditional medicine and complementary medicine. But for mental illnesses, you won't go far if you stay with traditional medicine alone. And I would easily say this in my lectures at universities because it's a fact.
Vanessa, thank you. We are almost at the end of our meeting. We have our announcements. There is a question here from Rodrigo, but I think perhaps it's not, don't have no time to quickly answer him, or you can answer in 2 minutes. And also I can pass to our people from Time to Talk about mediumship. So they can answer in a live, much time talking about how to help. I can put here quickly, how to help spirits when spiritual dialogues, when they are obsessed with vengeance, in obsession to an incarnated, how to help with their anger and rage. If you can, 2 minutes.
So quickly, one thing, the therapy of the good news, being optimistic, trying to seek the good, cleansing the heart, the emotions, substituting negative thoughts and feelings for good ones. It takes a coaching and a program, but it's possible. The other thing is, if you go to the book Obsession, that's the title of the book, Obsession, by Dr. Manuel Filomeno de Miranda through the medium Divaldo Franco. If this book is not on Amazon, you can go to Kardec Radio SoundCloud, and there is a whole playlist. Chapter by chapter is read. You can listen to the chapters and even explanations by the hosts at the time. But at the very beginning of the book, there is a layout on how to do this process of this obsession. I would read it, pay attention to it, and I would say, at the end of the day, the therapy of love. There's no other way. If we don't stop battling with people, if we keep bickering mentally, spiritually with people, being tolerant and impatient and angry, we won't go far. And to deal with anger, we need to be humble. Because anger usually is, as says in the gospel, Hahnemann, the father of homeopathy, has a beautiful message about this. Don't blame the body. We need to understand that it's pride that makes us feel we're entitled to be angry at people.
Yes. Thank you, Vanessa. Good, so quickly. It's a very wonderful talk with Vanessa. And now we will share our next week announcements. I hope I can do quickly here. How can I do this? Start for the previous one. Yes. Next week, we will have Dr. Humberto Schubert from Brazil. He's giving talks at the University of Oxford in the UK. I invited by University of Oxford, and you'll be with us next week in our spiritual life. Science of Life After Death. Okay? It will be good. I invite you all. Also, this coming Saturday, we will, next week, Saturday, this coming Saturday, Mediumship in Childhood and Youth. Please be with us through Zoom meeting. And also, it's already done, okay? But here in my home, you have Umberto as well. Every week, as today, afternoon, 4 o'clock, London time, coffee break with Kardec. Was about obsession today as well. Very nice. And we have No Solar every fortnight. Next week, we will have Time to Talk, okay? And also every Saturday, Kardec Media's book. A course, 10:30 a.m. London time. And now we move. But Charles has another live waiting for him, 10 p.m. in London time. And end of our meeting, we have Stevan. Yes, you are here, of course.
Yeah.
I can pass words to thank you, Vanessa. Okay.
Yeah, I'm so sorry because when I joined, I had the internet problems and I need to reboot everything. So, Vanessa, good to see you. Thank you very much, my dear.
Thank you. Good to see you, Stevan.
Thank you.
So thank you all. I hope to see you next week. God bless you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Be with us. Mediumship in Childhood, a seminar, 4 p.m. London time by Zoom. Okay? Thank you all.
Thank you.